Welcome to part 2 of the Twilight Princess modding tutorial. In this one we were going to cover the basics such as dumping your files, looking for the files you would like to modify, and using models helpers to dump them, and we're going to be doing a small sword import to kind of get the idea of the workflow. So let's begin. First, the best way to do testing is to dump your file with Dolphin Emulator. You'll right click it, Properties, File System, Entire Disk, navigate where you would like to save it. I like to make two of a backup and a modding files. Modding files being the one you can open in Dolphin. So go to modding, and that's where I'm going to dump it to. Now the cool thing about dumping with Dolphin, in that modding folder you'll get a sys and a files, open sys, then main.dol. This will let you open the game right here. And the second way that you can dump your files would be GameCube file tools. You'll click open GCM. Open your ISO, extract all files from GCM, navigate to that same space, and this is how I do my backups, though you could just copy the Dolphin folder, but I wanted to show both ways to dump the files. Next, we're going to find the file we want to modify. For this tutorial, we'll be doing the Master Sword. So there's this nice little spreadsheet here that has all the models and stuff documented. On the bottom here, you'll scroll over till you see models. It's right here. And now if you search Master Sword, which you could say I already have, it'll take you around here, and the file you're going to want is anything that says link right here. Adult link. So over here, this is the name of the arc that it's in, A-Link. So you'll be looking for A-Link.arc, and the model will be ALSWM, or ALSwim, I like to say. So we'll navigate to our files. Most of these files are going to be in Files, Res, Object. Look for A-Link. A-Link.arc. Copy it. Go all the way back to our toolbox. Go to the helpers folder here. This is where all the model magic will happen. Make a new folder. I like to name them original, so I'll put A-Link_original. You can name them whatever you want, but I think it's a good idea to name them after the file. And put it in there. Next up, we're going to be using TP Helpers GUI to extract the assets out of it. It uses pack models and unpack models here. This little config won't be created until after you open it, because when you open it, it'll automatically find these, and to check that it did, click Settings, and it should be pack models or unpack models. Make sure that it is your path, because there's a chance that it got bugged when I updated the GitHub, but just make sure it's yours. Click Save. Now you'll see unpack models. You want to open that, navigate to A-Link, open that, click unpack. And this right here is where all the information from Super BMD comes from and the model helpers. Usually it would be command line, but I had export to here, so this is where you'll see if there's any errors at all. Minimize that, open that, and you'll see ALSWM right here. Copy that. Make a new folder. Name it A-Link_. For this one, we'll just put new. We'll paste it there. You only need to paste the model that you're going to be replacing, otherwise it'll convert all the other models, which is both a waste of space because it'll increase the size and a waste of time. You only want the model that you are going to be replacing. Now that that's done, we can open up Blender. delete everything in here. I like to set this as my startup file, so I'm going to do that. No, wait, I don't got to keep deleting stuff. File, import DAE, navigate to your now dumped Master Sword. Now, before you import it, you need to make sure import units and keep bind info are clicked. This is for all models. Just make sure those are clicked before you import. All right. Make sure you put N so you have all this stuff here. Go to view, and something you'll notice when you click it, or not view, item, is this is rotated 90 degrees. So when you export it, it's got to be this orientation at 0, 0. But the link auto build tools that I've released with this, they will, there's a option to just clear transforms, and that'll put it right where it needs to go. Z, go into hero mode, see if it imported textures. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's all right, it doesn't need them. So we're going to take note of a few things here. Firstly, there is 1, 2 meshes here. So the model you are going to replace with must have 2 meshes. Also, you'll see that they are inside of the skeleton here. This issue is due to how Blender is, but you actually have to unpair the model. You'll go to put clear parent and keep transformation. And that's how it should, this is how your export will look. Now these names are also important. This is the import order to make sure your model imports correctly. So you'll have mesh 0 and then mesh ID 0. These names are important. Next, the materials. You'll see these materials here. You will be reusing these materials. You will not be making new materials and renaming them. The reason is even though sometimes that may work, it can cause issues with the model. Sometimes it'll cause issues with the tool. Sometimes it'll cause issues in game. So the safest bet is to just keep the materials this has and reuse them. So let's set up our model that we want to replace this with. So I am choosing to replace this with the sword that the hero shade has, and the reason why I'm doing this is because it'll show you that you also may need to edit your textures. So first off, I'm going to go to UV editing here. If your sword's not already set up the way the Master Sword is, this is why I'm going through this. So you'll see that this is all on one texture. On the Master Sword, we have 2 textures. We have the blade, and then we have the handle. 2 textures, so that's we have to match that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to isolate this sword because it's part of the main mesh here. Maybe I can try and select it with the bone. Nice. All right. I'll grab the sword. Now I'm going to look at the UVs. You can see that we got a piece of it here on the texture, a piece of it here on the texture, and a piece of it here. So this looks like it's the handle. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to open your image editing program of choice. I use Photoshop. A free alternative to that would be Krita. This is the texture I want. So the pieces I know I'm going to need. Firstly, I know that this here is the blade. So I'm going to isolate that part of the texture. Copy it. I'm going to make a new image. Usually in Photoshop it'll just go by your selection. Make sure it's a good size. It has to be a power of 2. So width 32, so we're going to go 32 by 120. Yeah, 32 by 256. That's close. There we go. I'm going to save this as a blade texture. So actually what we're going to do here is I'm going to go to where we have that located. And we'll save that. And we'll save it there. So this is the blade. So we're gonna go over here and save it over the blade. Click yes. Now we'll cross-reference with Blender again, see what parts we need. We needed this piece. Then we need this piece down here, which looks like it's for the guard. Okay. Make sure it's power of 2. This doesn't mean multiple of 2, by the way. It's 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, like that. I'm gonna go with nearest neighbor just because it'll keep it. I take that back. There. File, save as, PNG. Now we're gonna save it over the handle. Going back to Blender. What I like to do is I like to duplicate it so I can compare it to the original. So I'll do Shift D, move it over here. And then I will take the, actually, you know what? Let's bring these over to master file. So we'll just copy it from here to here. It's cool that you can actually copy between files. Bring this over here so it's easier to see. All right. So we're gonna go into edit mode for this guy. Select the face of the blade, for me at least, and I'll press Ctrl L and UVs, and what that does is it'll select that entire part of the model just by its UVs. So that's pretty cool. I like to press H to see if there's anything I'm missing. Like right here. And then I'll do that again. And then when I unhide it, it'll have all that part selected and I can just press P selection. Next, as we talked about before, these have 2 materials and 2 textures, so we got to make a match. So for the blade, check over here, AL Swim. I like to copy it, come over here, and click this guy right here, and this will put your search. And I do that, I just paste it in there, it's just faster. And for the handle, we'll do the same thing. It's very important that you swap them and you don't rename them because it can cause issues. Next, we're going to change the texture. We got AL Swim here. Go to make sure you're in the new section where we saved our texture before. AL Swim, AL Swim. Do the same for the handle. Base color. Click this button. So you'll notice this .001. This means that there's 2 textures with the same name inside this blend file. Usually you can get away with just backspacing this from the new texture and it'll keep it, but as you can see right now it's not wanting to play nicely with that. So what you would do is you'd come up here to this little section, click Blender File, find Images, and you'll find the original texture here and delete it or rename it. I'm just going to delete it and make my life easier. Alright, so now we should be able to come here on this and delete the .001, and it should keep the name there now. Same thing here, .001. Do it like that. Alright, next, UV editing. So you can see that this blade is definitely not at all where I want it to be. So I'm just gonna readjust the UVs to fit the texture. I like to find ways to make my job a little easier. So I can see that this point here is about the center. So I'll click that vertice and I'll click Shift S, cursor to selected. And then I'll come up here and go to 2D cursor, and now it'll scale it from that cursor. So I'll do that on each axis separately though. SX, there's my width, so that way I can adjust it if I need to. And on the Y axis. Clearly that's too long, so now I know that I'm at the top here. I'll do the same thing here. Click at the top, Shift S, cursor to selected, and then I'll scale it backwards so that it lines up a little more correctly. Now I can compare it to the original. Still not quite there, so it looks like around here is where we're gonna have to change it. And this is why I keep the original model nearby so I can compare it. Alright, got that pretty close, but the bottom could be better, I think. There we go. Then we'll do the same thing for the handle. Change this back to bounding box center so that it'll scale from right there where I would like it to. I'm not going to be super anal about this just so I can keep going with the tutorial, but there we go. That's formatted to be in two different textures. So we can delete the original mesh because we no longer need that. Next, we're going to grab both of these models and rotate them. Or we're going to move them here first. Move them as close as we can. Make sure you can cover transformations. Now this isn't going to be a Blender tutorial, this is more so for a modding tutorial, so if you don't know how to do this kind of stuff already, you'll just have to kind of do your own research. But you're going to do your best, as best as you can to line up this new model with the original. Control-Alt transforms. Camera mode. Alright, it seems like we got it pretty even. Alright, cool. Now, we're going to compare the original meshes. As I mentioned before, these cannot be in the skeleton, so we're going to remove that. We'll hide the skeleton for now. So, the mesh sword handle, this guy. Mesh 0, 0 ID 0. We're going to copy the second name first, just so that it doesn't move on us. Come to this first name, and we're going to rename it. Because this is a Twilight Princess mod, like just for example, this was the name. I'm going to rename everything to match the original names here. So mesh ID 0, mesh ID 0, come back, mesh 0, mesh 0. I don't know why Blender has it this way, but these are two separate names, and that's fine. We already did the material swapping, so everything should match between these two. You can now delete the original one. But now we're going to do the same thing for the blade. So this would be blade, right? And we want it to match the Master Sword blade here. So we see that it's mesh 1. We'll take that second name first, so it doesn't move. And then we'll put it into the new model's names. And then we'll do the same thing with the second name here. So now this model is no longer needed. So now this should work. So we're going to take both of these, make sure everything's transformed, go to wireframe, and we're going to try and attach to the skeleton here. But if not, we're going to select both of them first and then select the little skeleton here. Control P and with empty groups. Now you'll come over here to vertex mode and you'll find all these bones. These extra bones are because I took it from a rigged model, but the only bone that I'm going to need is AL swim here. So I'm going to delete everything else. You may also have to do this too if you're taking this from a rigged model of any kind. We go into edit mode, select all vertices, assign. And you'll do this for both models. Okay, now this should be ready for import. So we'll go to File, Export, DAE. It has to be DAE. This copy textures is only if we did the step where we changed the textures here. If you left them the same, you can change the textures in the folder when you're done. AO swim, but we're gonna make sure when A-Link new, make sure you're in A-Link new. I've done it a few times where I've actually overwrote the original and I didn't do anything. And you'll just select this DAE right here. Next, you'll open Models Helpers here. You'll see the clean folder here. You click the dialog box for that. Click A-Link Original, select folder. Now custom, you'll do the same thing. And then you'll click back. Luckily, we didn't have any errors here. So where it says down here conversion complete, that's a good thing. Now, copy to folder. This is a feature I added just for fast testing. You can go to settings here and you can set this. It'll move it wherever you want. We are going to move it to the ISO I mentioned earlier. And you select there. Now all this does is it copies it to that folder. So now, when we open it in game, Link should have the sword that we just created. There you go, look at that. Alright, and that concludes this first tutorial. Something I wanted to add for swords specifically is this is how the sheath imports. So it's a little hard to align your custom sheath if you had align with your sword. So I actually made this custom tool in auto build that actually is just for the sheath. You got edit ready and export ready. Currently it's by default export ready. So if you want to move it to where the sword's at, you click edit ready. And it puts it where you want it. Now, if this was your custom model, what you would do is you would take that sheath and click export ready, and it just puts it into the right location for you. I did this because it's easy enough as it is, just to try and eyeball it, but this method makes it a lot faster. And it's also easier for people who want to go back and edit it and then go back to export position. So now this actually concludes the tutorial.